Welcome to Screen Hollywood, the home of movie news and entertainment. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Welcome back to Screen Hollywood. I'm your host, Adam. If you're new here, join the Hollywood family and hit the like, subscribe, notification bell, and hype button. And bookmark and subscribe to our news publication at screenhollywood.com. Today, we are diving deep into the cosmos because the new trailer for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, has officially dropped on YouTube. After months of speculation, reshoots, and a record-breaking number of test screenings, James Gunn's DCU is finally pulling back the curtain on Kara Zor-El. Now, I've watched this trailer several times already, and I have a lot of thoughts. Some of it is exactly what I wanted to see, and some of it, well, it has me a bit worried about the finished product. We're going to talk about Millie Alcock's performance, that incredible first look at Jason Momoa as Lobo, and the major red flags regarding the villain and the production history of this film. There's no doubt that this trailer is an improvement over the first one. It finally gives us a sense of context and stakes. But is it enough to get people into theaters on opening weekend? Let's break it down. Let's start with the narrative. This trailer does a much better job of establishing the tone of Woman of Tomorrow, which is heavily inspired by the Tom King comic run. We see a version of Supergirl that is very different from the bright, optimistic Superman we're used to. This is a girl who sat on a chunk of Krypton and watched everyone she loved die while her cousin was being raised by a loving family in Kansas. The trailer centers heavily on her deep sense of loneliness and solitude. Millie Alcock looks great in these scenes. She has that "I've seen too much" look in her eyes that fits the character perfectly. Her only remaining family, at least in her mind, is her dog, Krypto. And that's where the stakes of this movie really kick in. We see what looks like a space pirate, someone working for the main antagonist, poisoning Krypto. It's a classic ticking clock scenario. Kara has a very short window of time to find an antidote and save her dog. It's an emotional hook that works. If you want an audience to care about a godlike alien, threatening their dog is a surefire way to do it. But while the emotional core is there, the journey through the space pirate underworld of the DCU looks a bit more chaotic than I expected. Now, let's talk about the absolute highlight of this trailer, Jason Momoa as Lobo. We finally get to see him in glorious 4K, and I can truly say, this guy was born to play this part. For years, fans said he looked more like Lobo than Aquaman, and seeing him with the chalk-white skin, the wild hair, and the cigar-chomping attitude, it just works. He lives and breathes Lobo. You can tell Momoa is having the time of his life, and I honestly can't see there being any issues with his performance. He provides that perfect, gritty contrast to Alcock's more stoic and tragic Supergirl. Lobo brings a level of energy to the trailer that was missing from the previous footage. When he's on screen, the movie feels alive. It feels like a space western. My only concern is that Lobo might end up overshadowing the actual plot because he's just so much more charismatic than anything else we're seeing. But in terms of casting, James Gunn hit a home run here. Momoa is going to be the scene stealer of 2026. However, we have to talk about the flip side of the coin. We got a much better look at the main villain in this trailer, and I have to say, I completely understand why the test screening audiences weren't keen. He didn't seem like a main villain at all. There was no sense of true threat or gravitas. To be honest, he looked like a mid-tier henchman, the kind of character I'd expect to see being thrown through a wall in the first 5 minutes of a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. He lacks that final boss energy that a Supergirl movie needs to feel epic. When your protagonist is one of the most powerful beings in the universe, the villain needs to be imposing. This guy? He just feels like a placeholder. They definitely could have done better with the creature design or the casting for the antagonist. If the central conflict is meant to be a high-stakes race against time, the person standing in Kara's way needs to feel like an immovable object. Right now, he just feels like an annoyance. I also noticed something while I was watching the trailer that really stood out to me, and not necessarily in a good way. The style of the soundtrack was very well worked into the visuals. It was synchronized, rhythmic, and stylish. But here's the thing, that was actually a bad sign for me. It told me all I needed to know. The trailer didn't actually grip me. While the action was happening and Millie Alcock was flying through space, the last thing I should have been thinking about was the music. But I found myself focusing on the score because the imagery wasn't holding my attention. When a trailer works, you get lost in the story. You forget you're watching an edit. When you start noticing how clever the music choices are, it usually means the visual storytelling isn't strong enough to stand on its own. It felt a bit too much like a music video and not enough like a cinematic event. It's a polished trailer, don't get me wrong, but it feels like it's trying to use style to hide a lack of substance. Now, let's get into the screen Hollywood side of things, the industry reality. I am currently 50-50 with this movie. I think it will be okay, maybe even good, but I don't think it's going to be amazing. And I certainly can't see people flooding screenings on opening weekend based on what we've seen so far. The truth of the matter is that this film has had a lot of problems in production. And those problems are evident when you look at the bizarre number of test screenings. This movie has gone through 8 test screenings. To put that into perspective, that is one of the highest numbers of test screenings for a major motion picture release in the last 20 years. When a studio tests a movie that many times, it means they are panicking. It means they are trying to find a version of the story that actually works because the initial cuts were failing. The movie will have gone through relentless edits, chops, and changes. While James Gunn is known for his tight scripts, Supergirl feels like it's being made in the edit. That's a dangerous way to make a movie. It often leads to scenes not flowing properly, story continuity issues, and a choppy feeling where the tone jumps all over the place. We've seen this happen with DC movies before, where the final product feels like it was put together by a committee based on test scores, rather than a director's vision. The DCU is in a fragile state. Superman is the foundation, but Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, is the first big test of the side stories. If this movie feels like a generic space adventure with a weak villain, it's going to struggle. Millie Alcock is a fantastic actress. Her work in House of the Dragon proves she can carry a massive franchise, and I'm sure she will hit this role out of the park in terms of her individual performance. But an actor can only do so much if the script has been edited to death by 8 different rounds of feedback. I'm worried that the space pirate plot feels a bit too small for a character of Kara's stature. Saving a dog is a great emotional beat, but is it enough to sustain a 2-hour epic? Or will it feel like a side quest that's been stretched out? The marketing is going to have to lean heavily on Jason Momoa's Lobo to get the casual fans in. He is the hook. But if the movie is 90 minutes of Kara looking sad and 10 minutes of Lobo, the audience is going to feel cheated. They're walking a very fine line here. So, final thoughts on the trailer? It's a step up. It looks beautiful in parts. The 4K visuals of the alien landscapes are stunning. Alcock looks the part, and Momoa is perfection. But those production red flags are hard to ignore. 8 test screenings don't happen to perfect movies. They happen to movies that are struggling to find their identity. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the relentless editing has resulted in a tight, emotional masterpiece. But right now, I'm skeptical. I suspect we're going to see a movie that is visually impressive but narratively disjointed. It'll probably be fine, but in a world where superhero fatigue is real, fine might not be enough to save the box office. But what do you think? Did the trailer grip you more than it did me? Are you sold on Jason Momoa as Lobo? And are you worried about those 8 test screenings? Drop a comment down below and let's get the conversation started. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Screen Hollywood for more first-person reviews and the truth behind the industry, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a deep dive. I'm Adam, and I'll see you in the next one.